Hi, I'm Rob Cosman. Welcome to my shop. We are going to do a trim router review. I'm going to give you my thoughts and opinions on two different trim routers, the Bosch and the Dewalt. If you're interested in either one, or at least what I think, stay with me. So the first question to answer is, what is a trim router? Well, this is what I would call a standard router. This is a 2 horsepower. It'll take up to a 1/2 inch shank router bit down to a 1/4. You can put collets in it. It has a cord on it, obviously. Nice when you need it, but a lot of times when you get small jobs, small bits, it's really bulky and awkward to deal with. That's an auxiliary base that I put on. Trim router, they tend to be around 1 horse. You can get them corded. I'm using the cordless type just because of the convenience. Small jobs, relatively small bits. You're not going to be turning large diameter bits on this. The collets are only 1/4 inch, so you can't use anything bigger than a 1/4 inch shank bit. But they're light, compact, and really convenient. At least I found them to be extremely convenient when you're doing probably half of all the router bit work that I would do. So I should explain why I decided to compare the Bosch to the Dewalt. I have, I think, 5 of these Colt routers. Always loved them. Nice, compact, even came with an extremely long cord, which I always thought was a huge bonus. But you get into certain applications where you're too far away from a plug, you have to have an extension cord. Just having a cord hanging onto it has always been the only downside to it. This wasn't available. So we got one of these, the Dewalt, about a year ago, and used it, liked it. You really get addicted to not having to drag a cord around. This one came out in December of 2024, and we thought, well, we're accustomed to Bosch quality. Most of our power tools are Bosch. Really like them. So we bought this. Very compact, even smaller, easier to hold on to, but there's one really annoying part that I'll share with you as we get into this, and that may severely impact, or I should say negatively impact your decision. You decide. So I'll give you the specifics on identifying this. So this is the Bosch Cordless Colt. If you want the model number, it's GFK-18V-25. And this is the Dewalt. Where's the model number on that? I guess they just call it a brushless motor. It's the DCW-600 compact router. The first thing you're going to notice is the difference in the height and the size. And that was a major difference. In fact, we weighed this and it comes in at, the Bosch comes in at, without the motor on, without the battery on it, comes in at 2 pounds 9 ounces. And the Dewalt, again, without the battery on it, is 3 pounds 7 ounces. So substantial difference. And you can tell, look at the difference in the height. And a lot of times I'm trying to use this in a tight spot. So this actually made a huge difference. Now, people seem to be hung up on horsepower. Of course, it's important, but these are fairly close. The actual horsepower on the Bosch is 1.39, and the Dewalt, not quite, is 1.25. Close enough, it would hardly even make a difference. Both are variable speed. However, the Bosch has a range of from 10,000 to 30,000 RPM, where the Dewalt is 16,000 to 25,500 RPM. And as far as the volts, the Bosch uses an 18 volt, the Dewalt uses a 20 volt. So we bought both of these without the batteries, and they both come in at about 150 US. When it came to dust collection, there was nothing provided with the Dewalt. That came just as you see it, minus the battery. However, the Bosch, not only is there an edge guide, but there's also a dust attachment for the bottom if you're going to have it in a router table application, or there's one at the top as well, and then there's a shield that goes on there, and you can remove all of the stuff if you want. But interesting that they provide all of that with you with your initial purchase. So the Dewalt first. There's a locking lever right here. So if you want to change the height, throw that over. There's a collar right here. And it actually moves pretty quick, so you're not having to sit there and spin it 100 times to get it to move ½ inch. There's a gauge, a numbered gauge down there. I never pay attention to that. I put the bit in. I eyeball it by looking along or sighting along the base plate. I get it close, lock it, check it on a scrap, and I prefer to do it that way rather than try to follow that guide. So that's your adjustment. You get it where you want it, you lock it down. Now to change a bit or install a bit, open that up. There's two little buttons right here. Grab both of those, and then that comes right off, nice and easy. Your collet is locked right here with this button. It's spring loaded, so you can't accidentally leave it on. You've got to hold that down, put your bit in, and tighten it up with a wrench. That's simple enough. And then to put it back, you just have to make sure everything, all the pieces line up. So that little slot right there, and there's a little tab on that side, that lines up like that. And then squeeze those two so it re-engages, get it where you want it, lock it down, and you're good to go. Now on the Bosch, similar but not entirely. I never did like this system. They have it on the corded Colts as well. So let the lever go, and then that's going to give you your micro adjust. It doesn't move nearly as quickly, but it still moves it. And then to disengage it, you turn that sideways like that, and now you can slide it up and down as you need it. To change your bit, just take that off. Now this is a nice feature. You move this over to the lock position, and now that locks the spindle so that you don't have to have that third hand holding everything. Put your bit in, tighten it up, and then throw that back over. Put this back on. Sorry, you can do it the right way. Remember, you have to engage the fine adjust. You got to turn it this way, and now you can go ahead and do that. And then just lock it when you're in place. And I do the same thing. I eyeball it and then I fine tune it on a piece of scrap. Now, if I was going to choose one, I think I like the Dewalt better just because everything's right out front. It's a lot easier to manipulate, and yeah, I like that locking mechanism, but I wouldn't trade those features for all of these features when you factor in everything. Give that to DeWalt. And it's just hard to see. They didn't identify it very well. So it seems like every time I use this, I'm fumbling trying to find it. And then which side do you push to start it? Now I've got this down on the lowest speed. And there's no great amount of torque. It's not like the big routers. Relatively easy to operate. I wish that was a little clearer. Which is the nice thing about the Colt. It's a much bigger button if you look in comparison, and it's really easy to identify. Now whether or not that wears off over time, I don't know, but you know, it's a real fast stop, which is nice. You're not having to wait there for something to stop spinning. So I'm going to give this one to the Colt. I just think that's a little bit easier. It's a little bit bigger. This was an easy decision for me. This, apparently they're going to make other base plates available, but as of right now, this is all you get. And what I don't like about the Bosch is it's so small. The opening is fairly large. It's just not very stable, especially if you're working on the edge of something. You don't have a whole lot of reference surface, which is what I like about this base plate on the DeWalt. The fact that you've got that big flat surface over there gives you a whole lot more reference surface. And the actual hole here is a little bit smaller, so again, just overall, feels much better when working on the surface with that big base plate than with this one. So this one definitely that one goes to the DeWalt. I'm not one to run and grab my hearing protection every time I do this. I probably should, but I don't. I'm going to let you just hear these because this is a big one. So I'm going to start off at the slowest RPM and go up to the highest. Now, here's the Bosch. Whole lot louder. So we actually videotaped this in comparison, sent it to Bosch, and their response was, hey, we have loud bearings. But that's annoying when you're turning that. And if you're using small diameter bits, you want it fairly high RPM. Larger diameter bits where you slow it down. So that is really annoying. You'd have to have hearing protection, but then everybody else in the room gets bothered by it as well. So this one definitely goes to the Dewalt. So the final thing is, I'm going to suggest to you is just the way I prefer to do this and why this one is better than this one for this reason. So if I'm doing any kind of work up against the fence, I don't use this. I simply go up against the base plate. The problem is that if we put a caliper on there and we measure from the outside of the bit to where it touches on the outside of the base plate, and we went all the way around, and it varied 25 thou. Whereas when you have a base plate like this, and you put your bit in and you're running off of here, it's going to be the same throughout. And I suppose you could argue over here, but at least this one you have the ability to put it up against a flat surface, this one you don't. Okay, so in giving you my final thoughts, the last thing I want to include is the overall height. So this is 8 7/8, and this one comes in at 7 5/8. So you wouldn't think it's a huge difference, but when you got to get into a certain spot, it certainly is. So I like the compactness of the Bosch, but I would still buy this one first, at least in current state. Primarily, I think because of the base plate, and it's quieter. This is way too noisy. It would drive me nuts. This is nice to hold on to. It's very comfortable in the hand and well balanced. This one doesn't have the same good feel, but I can get past that because there's just no way I could work with that thing screaming in my ear all day long. So I went through and showed you all the different features of it, but I would still buy, right now I would buy the Dewalt over the Bosch. Hopefully that helped you, but remember, this is just the way that I use it. Everybody's going to be a little bit different. Somebody else will have a completely different opinion, but you heard mine. See ya. If you enjoy my method of work and like my style of teaching, click on any one of these videos to help take your woodworking to the next level. I've always said, better tools make the job so much easier. If you click on the plane and chisel icon below, it'll take you to our site and introduce you to all the tools that we actually manufacture right here in our shop. It'll also give you information on our in-person and online workshops.